Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You're watching Blueprint Explosive Exclusive, and I'm Meghna Deka. 97 lakh people. That's right. 97 lakh people are the ones who are dying of cancer. That's right. Close to 1 crore people in 1 year alone die of cancer, year on year across the world. But at least there's now a thin ray of hope. A portion of these deaths may be avoided. Perhaps finally there's a cure for cancer. How, you may ask? Well, because a game-changing vaccine has now been developed and tested in Russia. And at its initial stages, Enteromix has shown very promising results. Is there finally a cure for cancer? Or is this just a global hype, not a game changer? Across the next half hour, we are going to be speaking to experts who are going to tell us to what extent is this vaccine going to help, on what cancers, more importantly, what are the timelines that we are looking at as well, and should you have that little ray of hope now? Is it time to say goodbye to cancer? Is the question that we are going to be asking. But first, let's tell you about Russia's hope to the world. This is Enteromix. This is a vaccine. What do we know so far about it? Over the last 3 years, they've tested it on 48 patients. As per Russia, they say the efficacy so far has been 100%. Too good to believe, isn't it? But 100% efficacy is claimed by the scientists who have developed this vaccine. And the reduction in a tumor after this vaccine, they say, is as high as 60 to 80%. And these are very aggressive tumors, mind you, which were used in pre-trial stages. The side effects, they say, are negligible as compared to other aggressive forms of treatment such as chemotherapy and radiotherapy. But not much really is known about, at least to the public, about this vaccine so far, which is being developed, researched in Russia. But that's exactly why we are going to be here. We are going to tell you everything that you need to know, each and every detail about this cancer vaccine, which is being called groundbreaking in many such scientific communities. So far, they've put in about 3 years of research into it, which has been completed. In fact, what is the stage that it is in right now? The pre-clinical trials have been completed so far. The status of this is that they say that it is ready for use. But what does ready for use really mean? The regulatory status, and this is what's important, they are still waiting for that regulatory approval to come in. That hasn't yet happened yet. We are expecting that the approval may come in somewhere mid-2026 in Russia. Mid-2026. After that, what happens? Once that approval comes, they are saying that roughly around Q3, around the third quarter of 2026, do we expect clinical trials to begin in Russia. So it's not just a magic pill that you can expect to end cancer. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process. But let's tell you a bit about Enteromix. Enteromix, I beg your pardon. Enteromix is breakthrough that they are saying is already showing incredible promise. In fact, it could impact multiple types of cancer. But let's tell you what it really means for millions of people worldwide. Why is it going to be so very important? There you have it on your screens. What we do know in the first stage of preclinical trials, what they are saying is colorectal cancer, which is essentially a cancer which is there in the colon or in the rectum area. The results, they say, so far have been very heartening. 60 to 80% of the tumor has been shrinked. But this is not the only one that the Russian scientists are working on. They are saying there are additional vaccines also they are developing simultaneously as well. For example, you have this one, the glioblastoma. They say that they are going to work on a cancer which is a brain cancer, a tumor which may just be an additional vaccine which may in the next step be treating this type of brain cancer as well. The research for that is currently underway. There's another additional vaccine which is currently being developed, which is for melanoma, which is of course skin cancer, even skin cancer in the eye. They are saying that is an additional research which is currently underway even as we speak in Russia. But unlike the traditional treatments, this vaccine is going to be very different. It is being designed to specifically target 3 major types of cancer, as we were just mentioning, and importantly, all 3 of these are widely prevalent across the globe, affecting millions so far. Let's give you a scope of how big a magic pill this is going to be if it does get the regulatory approvals. Well, for example, across the world, you have about 19 lakh cases every year of colorectal cancer, which is 9 to 10% of all the new cancer cases are that of colorectal, which is a huge percentage. Also, 30 lakh cases are projected annually by 2040. So it is only going to be increasing from here onwards. Very important for us to point that out. Also, if you talk about glioblastoma cancer, this affects about 1.4 lakh people every year. Now, they are working on this additional one, which may just work for glioblastoma cancer as well. And up to 40% of all the brain tumor cases is this very type of cancer. Also, the melanoma cancer, which is the skin cancer that we are looking at, 3.3 lakh cases every year, may just be treated if there are additional vaccines which come in for that. And this is one of the cancers which has about 2.2% lifetime risk as well. So you can see how deadly these cancers are that we are hoping may just get a cure. Now, one important detail, it's important for us to point it out, especially for those who are not blessed with wealth but unfortunately cursed with cancer, is how much will this vaccine cost? Well, there is no official word on that yet by the Russian scientists, but unconfirmed reports are already doing the rounds. In fact, they have estimated that it comes to roughly 3 lakh rubles. Well, that is what they are saying, that this is the estimated price as per many of the reports which are coming in. If you convert that into dollars, it is about $2,869. If you convert it into rupees, there you have it, the number on your screens, 2,52,550 rupees. That's what this jab would be costing you. Of course, it so far isn't available in India. That's going to be a longer process. But is it truly going to be a game changer, or is it just another headline? Well, there are important questions that still need to be answered. Questions that could make all the difference. That's the devil in the detail. Let's break down the facts for you, the doubts and what exactly is going to be the journey for this cancer vaccine. For example, let's tell you, so far what we do know is that the sample size of the Russian phase 1 trials has been that of 48. 48 cases were treated and were researched. However, the problem is, and this is where the skepticism is coming in, the problem is that it is too small to generalize globally that it is going to be effective. Also, the second part is that the trial evaluates safety and tolerability so far. However, the problem is that the long-term outcome still is untested. The next problem is that it is comparative efficacy, which is still unknown. We don't know if it is going to be better or worse than the ones which are already being used for treatment of cancer. Also, the progression and the free survival rate is currently unknown. What happens from there onwards, essentially. Also remember, this is not peer-reviewed publication. It has not been published, which means that others in the scientific community are yet to see the raw data of this research over the last 3 years. The biomarkers are also not available for them to gauge it. So peers have not reviewed it, and that is one of the biggest red flags so far in the scientific community. But before we go to our guests, it's important to understand the difference between a cancer vaccine and any other method of vaccine that help cure cancer. Say, for example, chemotherapy. So we are going to contrast chemotherapy and also this very cancer vaccine for you to tell you how the two of them are going to be different. For example, in chemotherapy, it attacks the cancer cells, but it also attacks the healthy cells. Both of them here in chemotherapy, as you can see, get impacted by chemo, which leads to a lot of side effects. But when it comes to Enteromix, this recognizes and attacks specifically only the cancer cells. Not all the cells are going to be impacted for it. Also in chemotherapy, it's a one-size-fits-most for every possible type of cancer for every different patient. There's no customization. However, for this vaccine, it is customized for each and every patient's tumor mutation, and as per that, it is being customized. In fact, AI is used to personalize these vaccines, and this takes about 30 to 60 minutes. In less than an hour, they can actually specifically use AI to give a customized vaccine per person. But when it comes to chemotherapy, drugs are circulated throughout the body. It is not really specific to any case. The next difference that is also there, we are going to tell you about the next difference between chemotherapy versus the Enteromix, is that chemotherapy, as we all know, has massive side effects. For example, it leads to hair loss, to nausea, to low immunity. When it comes to this, mostly it is fever and fatigue which is being reported. It has not reported that there's going to be hair loss, nausea, the very low immunity, the infections which are associated with chemotherapy. So let me go across to our panelists. Today joining us on the show, we have Sujit Paul, who is the Group CEO of Zota Healthcare. Also, Dr. Sanjeev Bagai is joining us, the Nephron chairperson. Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, I'm going to come to you first because there are so many reports which are coming in. There's a lot of hope and a lot of hype around the Russian cancer vaccine, but you must explain to us, do you believe in it? Do you think that this is enough reason to have hope, or do you think there is more hype here? Because a lot of it seems to be untested, not even peer-reviewed yet. Where are we?
Good evening. So the reports are initial reports. I think we are in the infancy phase as far as this vaccine is concerned. mRNA as a technology, as a platform, has been used for many years. We will remember in COVID, we had the Pfizer vaccine and the Moderna, both were mRNA vaccines. It is safe. The technology does not change the DNA, so from that point of view, it does not replicate in the body. With regards to this particular vaccine, to call it a universal anti-cancer vaccine with a very limited participant as a trial number is, it will be extremely immature and foolhardy to call it a sufficient sample size. The second thing is cancer has various etiologies. It is genetic, it is mutation, familial, diet, lifestyle diseases, age-related infections. Very often viral infections precipitate cancers like EBV and herpes and so on. So I think we are still at a very early stage. The data needs to be extrapolated in different countries, different continents. There is also a geographical and a heritable difference between cancers in different regions, different countries. So I think it's a wait and watch game just now, but very clearly we need a much larger sample size followed for years together to reach any conclusion, to come to a magical term, what we call as vaccine efficacy.
But Sujit Paul, here's the confusion bit, because everyone's wondering if it is being declared 100% efficacy rate, as has been said by the scientists who have discovered it, what's going to be the process from here onwards? Everyone wants to know when is it going to be available in India, but no time soon. Is that true? Can you give us some timelines here?
I think one must understand that launching a vaccine needs a very, very extensive stages. So that's a fundamental thing that people have to understand. Like, further research have to go through the discovery, the entire process of preclinical testing. Now, for this specific vaccine, we have to go through the clinical trials, and clinical trials typically operates under various phases. Sometimes it goes as high as up to phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Usually we talk about 3 phases in clinical trials, which is phase 1, 2 and 3. But at times complexities can elevate to another 2 phases. And once it happens, then after that the regulatory bodies like the US FDA reviews the data, and only once it is approved it gets into a manufacturing process. So please understand that it's usually a very long-term process. It's vaccine. You must understand that. However, keeping in view of what the data at this point of time we see, I don't foresee it coming to India anything before the next minimum 2 years or more. I don't foresee at all before that, because please understand that Enteromix is basically it uses the virus to directly destroy the tumors and activate the innate immunity, while the mRNA vaccines work at the molecular levels, right?
Right.
So there will be a lot of clinical phase of movement that it will go through the clinical trials. So not less than 2.5 years, I at all don't foresee.
Not before 2.5 years, and that's going to be the earliest, because only in Q3 2026 is what some are estimating that the approvals will come in Russia, then Russia will start it, then we'll see how it progresses and the steps that they are taken in India to bring it here, if at all. But Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, we must understand this, because it's been touted as a personalized vaccine. What does it mean? How is it going to be different from the vaccine cures that we have, the kind of treatment that we have currently? For example, we have a radiotherapy, we have chemotherapy. How is this vaccine different?
Yeah, so the medical treatment which is so far available for cancers, except what we have in the Indian diaspora and worldwide, what we call as a human papilloma virus vaccine, which is targeting against cervical cancers, which has shown excellent results, and it is being used over millions of doses worldwide. That's at the present moment the only preventive vaccine. The treatment available, be it surgical, be it medical oncology in terms of chemotherapy or radiotherapy in terms of radiation, is to treat the cancers. So one is preventive and the second is the treatment, therapeutic. Right. Vaccines are preventive. With regards to this vaccine, the mRNA technology, like I've said, is extremely robust and good. But cancers, because of its multivariant etiology and genetics and genetic mutations, it is going to take a very long time before we get a sizable number, which should be in thousands, be it of head, face, neck cancers, breast cancer, cervical cancer, pancreatic cancer, bone cancer, soft tissue cancer. So it's going to take a long time. My own estimate is it is going to take anywhere between 3 and 5 years before it passes through phase 1, phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials. We have to see that the relapses don't happen for cancers. Absolutely. Relapses don't happen overnight.
And also the long-term effects of
long-term effects of this vaccine. So it's going to take a long time. Your direct question of what is personalized or precision healthcare, yes, this is a digital technology. It targets against a particular genome, a particular protein fraction, what we call as an allele. In each patient, each person, each human is different. That is a well-known fact. But at the present moment, it is far too early to predict its efficacy on the ground to be used worldwide across the board.
Yes, so far we do not have the required data to even have a peer review. That hasn't happened yet. Sujit Paul, given the way the Russian scientific community really operates, do you think we are a far sight away from making a knowledgeable decision upon this? Because so far very little is known, and we do know that several others across the world are also in this race to come up with a cure for cancer.
No, see, I think we must understand that Russia is a very advanced country in terms of the inventions part of the entire game. You know, whether you see Moscow or Kazan or Vladivostok, to a matter of fact, or even the similar countries like St. Petersburg, we have very good research centers. So, but whilst that happens, but there have to be a proof of concept, because it's, as I said earlier, it's a vaccine, and typically before anything we have to have an immune response that need to kind of go through, and the entire outcomes of whether the infections, the symptomatic illness, the hospitalizations, the deaths, everything have to go through. So there have to be a proper testing of the vaccine that need to go through, and there have to be.
So I think it's safe right now to say that there is a ray of hope, a glimmer of hope, but it may be a bit early. So let's be cautious about it. I think we can agree on that. But thank you so much, Sujit Paul, as well as Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, for breaking it down, explaining it to us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. With that, a short break. Don't go anywhere.